I had to.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Brian is talking about Smokey the Bear. You got flash fires out there, Brian?
Yeah, in the northern part of the state, and of course, when the winds shift and everything flows down into the valley, then we get like tan skies. So, and particulates go up through the roof.
Well, what I would do is say to you, "Ooh, fuck Flagstaff."
Yeah.
Hey, that's my ode to the state of Arizona. My 2-second fuck Flagstaff. Yeah. University of Northern Arizona. Blow me. All right. It's 1 minute after 6, and you've got a tune to a big and furry bovine and his equine friend Brian on Moohead Radio. It is the Monday edition, which means we get to talk about all the things that transpired over the weekend. And I wanted to start out the program. Every so often, this wanders into uncomfortable territory. The whole Josh Allen thing. Everybody knows that I didn't want the Browns to take Josh Allen. That it had nothing to do with tweets when he was 15 years old. It had to do with the fact that he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But now everybody's making a big deal about tweets that he made when he was 15 years old, trying to turn him into some kind of a neo-Nazi white supremacist. Now the discussion that's being perpetuated on First Take on ESPN, thanks to our friend Stephen A. Smith, is that he owes the players on the Buffalo Bills a personal explanation, basically, and that he needs to, and they're saying, oh, he's got to, explain what it was that he was doing, why, and, and what Stephen A. Smith kept saying on the program today, and it really was irritating me, was, look, just, you can't say that. Except to each other. We can say that to each other as black men, but you can't say whether it's Nigga or Nigger. You cannot use that word if you're a white person. All right. And this is going to ruffle some feathers, but this is what I believe. And this is not going to make me a white supremacist because I find the word repulsive. I cannot understand why it's okay for one black man to call another black man the N-word and a white guy not to be able to drop the word without it having a different connotation. It is a derogatory word. Any way you look at it, it harkens back to a time when we had separate drinking fountains in this country, when we had problems in the Deep South and in the North. Not saying we don't still have problems, folks. We still got plenty of those. But it harkens back to a time when people were referred to in that derogatory way. I don't like it when black men use the word hose to describe women. I find that to be really kind of culturally bankrupt. Because not all women are prostitutes. And I don't find that to be a slang word to represent women. I want somebody to have the cojones, and it's not going to be Max Kellerman, all right? And Max could have done this, all right? Max is a member of my family's tribe, and he could have said to Stephen A., we don't walk up to each other and say, hey, kike, what's going on? We don't do that. Jews don't do that.
No, use creative terms like shiksa.
I don't use the words like that. I'm married to a shiksa, okay? I'm married to a Filipino Catholic. That's as shiksa as it gets. As a matter of fact, I find it repugnant that Jews refer to themselves as the chosen people, insinuating that they've been chosen over others. I find that repugnant. I think everybody who's alive has equality. I don't believe that one was chosen over another. I see things very differently than a lot of people do. But, I can't for the life of me understand why something that somebody tweeted when they were 15 years old is making such a damn bit of difference in people's lives. And why such a repugnant word which seems to offend Stephen A. Smith when a white person uses it, doesn't bother him when a black person uses it. To me, it's a word that should be extinguished completely from the human vocabulary because it serves no vital purpose whatsoever except to be slanderous. I want to say this, too, because I'm getting sick of the victim mentality in this goddamn country. You know, you got to be able to defend yourself. You got to be able to stand up to people who say shit to you. I grew up, I'm fat now. I was a fat kid. I grew up fat. You know how many people have called me fat? I've had opponents call me fat on a tennis court. I've had people in the playground call me fat. I've been called fat by more people than you can fucking imagine. And you know something? In the end, I didn't sit there and crawl into a fucking fetal position and say, I'm a victim. I'm being bullied. You know, bully is a word that has a meaning, okay? It has a meaning. When I was a kid, what a bully was when you were a new young kid in town and older kids who came up to you and beat up on you. They did physical damage to you. They didn't taunt you with verbiage. They punched you in the stomach and they took the wind out of you. And the word bully connotes that a person has a physical advantage over the person that they are committing physical violence against. This notion of, you know, whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Whatever happened to our culture? What has happened to our society that we've grown so lax and so soft? If somebody calls me fat, that makes them ignorant, not a bully. If somebody punches me in the playground as hard as they can in the stomach and drops me to my knees, and he's 4 or 5 years older than I am, that makes him a bully. And there's only one way to deal with a bully, and you got to punch him back. And it's not easy when you're a kid, because in the end, you're probably going to get the worst of it. But if you fight back, generally the bully will rather pick on somebody who doesn't fight back. What I don't understand is this notion, and the thing that brought this up to me was this whole White House Correspondents' Dinner. And this is not going to take a sharp political turn because the stand-up comedian, the woman, I don't even know her name, and I never heard of her before. To be very honest with you, she's made a name for herself by doing something that was very harshly worded and was regarded as funny in parts and pathetic and lame and insulting in other parts. The idea is for everybody to make fun of everybody. It's kind of like a roast, if you will, but everybody in the end holds hands and sings Kumbaya. Now, obviously it went off the rails and she got a little bit too mouthy in this thing and really went after Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, and there's Mike Huckabee running to his daughter's defense and referring to the stand-up comedian as a bully. And I said, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I mean, you're a goddamn professional press secretary whose job it is to spin the words of the president of the United States so that he doesn't trip over his own dick. It's a hard job. We've got a tweeter in office. We've got a guy who uses social media randomly. And he says things that can sometimes be interpreted 3 or 4 different ways. It's Sarah Huckabee Sanders' job to try to spin that. Even if she knows damn well that he made a political blunder by saying something he didn't have to say. Her job is to make it right. And when you stand in front of the press and do that, there are going to be people who take shots at you, and you're taking shots back at the press. When you say things to the press like, why don't you people just go out and get a sense of humor or something, and you have an antagonistic relationship, when you're in public life, Brian, it doesn't matter what party you're in. When you're elected to office, you know, you're going to have shots taken at you. It's the way it goes. These people aren't bullies. They're idiots. They're morons. It's a person standing up at a White House Correspondents' Dinner where Trump's not even present at, trying to make a name for herself because she doesn't have a fucking HBO special. That's what it is.
The one that I would consider closer to being bully-like would be Griffin, when she had the whole thing with holding the severed head, bloody severed head, because that really traumatized the kid who was 11 fucking years old and really doesn't, lives a reasonably sheltered life and doesn't fucking know that slings and arrows like that exist.
Well, I mean, the thing is, and let's be real clear about the bully concept. Again, the meaning of the word is if you take an action against somebody who is helpless or at a severe disadvantage. So if you go out and you taunt a person who is mentally handicapped, all right? If you taunt somebody who is smaller than you and you push them around and you physically, force your will on somebody that way, you're being a bully. If two adults say nasty things to one another, that might make them nasty people. A 15-year-old kid who tweets something because he's just kind of repeating something he heard on a television program is not a reason to sit there and make him have to make the round.
A lot of this stuff was like, you were talking about the N word. Well, 98% of rap lyrics have that in it.
We don't understand. Look, what I can understand is this. I don't use.
So if he quotes any random rap lyric for a verse or two verses, of course it's going to have something in that derogatory to women, derogatory to whatever, derogatory to black people. So like I said, it's stuff that if kids 35, 40 years ago sitting in their living room or basement or wherever, just hanging out, bullshitting with each other, would have said to each other. It just happened to be using now it uses electronic media that apparently,
which doesn't forget. It never forgets. It's always there. It can be mined by people who are trying to sabotage somebody's draft position, which is what happened here. We don't know who did it. And it's one of the things that's just like, did the Russians tamper with the election? I mean, we don't know how to figure out how people are mining previous old information from social media. But let it be known that there are people who are, and it's a form of espionage, to be sure, because you're utilizing something to create a train of thought, and in this case, to hurt a kid who's trying to come out and make his life earnings. It's not right, and and all I can do is sit there and listen to this 24/7 sports news broadcast bullshit and say, something. Why can't we just agree that it's not all right for you to call me a kike, or for me to call my rabbi a kike, or for a black person to call another black person a nigger, or for a white person to call a black person a nigger? We don't need these words. These words are ugly words, and they go all the way back to a time when people were being exterminated, lynched, gassed, or whatever. We don't need that crap. But to sit there and come down on a 15-year-old kid, I cannot begin to tell you the shit I did when I was a kid. I mean, what a bunch of horseshit. We become soft and lax as a society. We become a society of victims. And it's disgusting. We don't even stand up for our fucking selves anymore. And, as far as our children are concerned, hey, we can't even motivate them to go out and fucking vote. I mean, until you're willing to take the world by the balls and you're willing to really protect yourself, don't be taking the victim route. Let's get a little tougher. Let's develop a little thicker skin. Let's decide that there are words that we're just going to scratch out completely because they just have no point except for being hateful. And let's be able to take a joke every now and then too while we're at it. It's like, that's all I want to get. I just want to get that off my chest. And Stephen A. Smith should, he said some things that he's been reprimanded for on ESPN, which doesn't say much because every black person who worked on ESPN, Jameel Hill, was basically run off of the network. But the fact of the matter is, everybody
Yeah, but
says
she said a
things that they
moronic
wish they could
goddamn
have back.
thing. So she totally said a moronic goddamn thing.
Well, she was implementing politics into a format that didn't fit.
Right. Well, and they've been doing that for, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years, at least since 2015, 2014.
Well, I mean, again, but believe me, when the content of the goddamn network is no better than accusing a 15-year-old kid of being a racist and forcing him to go around a locker room and go to every black man and have to explain himself. I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing in the world. I mean, did Incognito, when he was picked up to play, did he have to go to his to every team he went to and have to explain his anger management issues? Has every player in the NFL who physically struck a woman, had to go to every player in the locker room, every white guy or every black guy, and have to explain why he slugged the woman?
Ray Rice never played another down.
Well, and nor should he have, predicated on that whole situation. And damn good thing. There's no place in the world for that kind of behavior. But you see, in the end, that's different. When you slug a woman and knock her out cold and drag her by the feet out of an elevator, when you're a fucking criminal. You got to explain to the court why you shouldn't be going to jail. But this notion of every little sin that I committed during the course of my life, I have to, this is the victim mentality that we live in. It's like, ooh, I can't offend anybody. And it's like, fuck that shit.
And here, I'll close out this segment with an anecdote. For the last, my dad was kind of a juvenile delinquent when he was 13, 14, 15. So right before his 16th birthday, my grandmother signed him up to go to military school in Lebanon, Tennessee. And this is 1954, 55, 56, 57. So you can imagine what a northern kid going down south for, and Cleveland did have, the blacks lived on the west side and the majority of the whites lived on the east side. And that was how it was. You had your Polish and Italian and whatever, German and whatever areas. Well, when he went down there, because he was respectful to the black help, he started getting called nigger lover and earning bullshit demerits. So he'd have extra marching and extra exercises and and all this extra and all this other crap was being pulled on him just because he was nice to the black help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a world of history, and I'm not going to say that this world could ever be the same as it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago when I was a kid. I can't tell you that that's the way it's going to be 50 years ago. The world isn't going to go back into what it was. But God almighty, it can't continue like this. It's just pathetic. I want to talk about the Cavs next because obviously big thing with winning Game 7, but something I can't understand, and maybe somebody can explain it to me in the chat room over on YouTube. This notion of Tristan Thompson getting the start and scoring 15 points, getting 10 boards, playing a good game, looking like Tristan Thompson looks like, and making him like the hero of the game. And I'm sitting here watching this whole thing saying, well, where in the fuck was he all year? I'm not going to say, well, no, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, he's a hero. I hate that fucking word. It's overused anyway. Fucking hero. Because he played one goddamn game. The man signed an $85 million 5-year contract, for fucking Christ's sake. And this year, How many good games did he give us? So he got an opportunity to start because his ego was bruised and he was motivated and he actually played hard. He has not played hard all year. And basically, he's an energy player who's a high motor player who everything that he does is predicated on sheer will because he's undersized at 6'7 3/4. He can't really shoot anywhere outside of 2 feet of the basket. And he's an offensive rebounding machine when he's moving all the time. He wasn't moving at all during the course of the year. He was sluggish. He was lazy. And the bottom line is he sucked. He finally came through in one game, and people want to anoint him the savior. Meanwhile, LeBron James is up there, and he turned down a goddamn IV in the locker room. He looked like during his presser after the game, he looked like he's going to pass out. He looked like he needed electrolytes, to be honest. And he actually said, I got to go home. I have to go home. I'm tired. I mean, he cramped up. I mean, he took on more in this 7-game series than he has at any time in his career, because when he was younger and he had no help, he would cave in. All right. We remember it as Cleveland fans because we saw him do this. Where finally, you just kind of cave in and say, okay, uncle, but there was no uncle this time. He played his ass off. He literally played his ass off, and he cramped up in game 7, and he still managed to fight his way back into the game to get a backdoor cut layup and an important rebound after a stop and help the team win. He did everything he humanly could in what many people are saying are his last year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he's the real fucking hero, folks. The guy averaged 34.4 points per game, 42 a game in the wins. Without him, there's no win. Fuck Tristan Thompson. Without LeBron, there's no game 7. I just wish people would look at things like they are.
Well, and they actually had 4 players in double figures this game, too.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously some help. I really wanted, personally, I wanted the game balls to be cut in half like LeBron did, but I wanted Rodney Hood and Jordan Clarkson to get half each because they suck. They suck. They didn't do a goddamn thing. Rodney Hood, as far as I'm concerned, I'd leave him off the goddamn roster. What good is he? He is light in the loafers, weak. He doesn't take the ball hard to the basket. He dribbles the ball up to his shoulder so anyone can steal it from him. He can't shoot 3-point shots. He's weak defensively and gets pushed around. I mean, for all the talk, yeah, we got some help from George Hill. Hallelujah. George Hill played a game. Woohoo. We got, help from Kevin Love, who finally made a couple of 3-point shots. Well, Jesus Christ, the guy is supposed to
been making.
Huh?
Have you seen, that's all he's been making. Have you seen his 2-point percentage?
Oh my God, he looks like he's totally. I mean, Thaddeus Young is not exactly Zeus, okay? But Kevin Love trying to work down low against these people, getting his shot altered. He's been weak, not going strong to the basket. He looks timid, and they try to set him up at the beginning of the game, shooting air balls from the corner. I mean, look. You can say, oh, well, we finally got 4 double-digit scorers, but you know something? When Kevin Love only scores 14, when he should be scoring 20 plus, predicated on the number of touches that he gets, and you're not going to keep going back to him in the post. I mean, he just looks like he was afraid.
No, and he was like 1 out of 5.
Yeah, and even wide open one, he just throws it up with no arc. There's no conviction in what he's doing. It's a problem, and there's only one hero in this whole thing, and that's the guy who won the series for you, and you're asking him the dumb question. So what's it mean to you that Tristan showed up? It's like, showed up? $85 million? Get you a little bit more than a show up for one game in the playoffs. If Tristan Thompson had played this hard during the course of the season, we would not have been a number 4 seed. We would have had an opportunity to play Boston now that Boston seemingly for at least a game or so doesn't have Jaylen Brown along with the other guys who are hurt. We could have been the number 3 seed, not Philadelphia. But you see, Tristan Thompson obviously plays when he feels it's important to play. You pay somebody to do a job, do the goddamn job. I don't consider that person a hero whatsoever. I will say this: I walk away from the Pacers series with respect for Victor Oladipo, who I think is a wonderful player. And I think that if you're going to feel badly for somebody on Indiana, he would be the one to feel badly for, because he didn't get much help either, because Bogdanovich didn't show up.
No, and he averaged like 30 points a game.
He scored 30 in one game, but he didn't even show up for this game. All he was trying to do was trying to be rugged, tough guy and snarky cheap shot artist.
No, I mean Oladipo.
Oladipo was fantastic. I mean,
I think he averaged 30 points a game.
He had two really bad games, because I think this is the first opportunity that he's had to really be the leader on a team. Let's be honest. Russell Westbrook took 43 shots when his team lost to the Utah Jazz in the elimination game. Russell Westbrook is a piece of fucking shit. 43 shots. I mean, that is just absolutely uncalled for. Victor Oladipo, when he was in Oklahoma City, didn't get to shoot the ball. He didn't get the ball in his hands because goddamn Russell Westbrook hogged the ball. It's the same reason that Kevin Durant wanted the fuck out of Oklahoma City is Russell Westbrook. For God's sakes, all the guy does is hog the ball. And you see a guy like Oladipo who's dangerous as hell with the ball in his hands. And he's improved his three-point shot immensely. He's fast as hell, gets into the paint, can dish off, assuming that people would make the shots when he dishes the ball off. But look at what's surrounding him in Indiana. You've got Thaddeus Young, career 30% three-point shooter, who always has had more physical tools than results. The guy is an underachiever. Lance Stevenson, they didn't even play him in the second half because I'm convinced that the coach was convinced that he was just going to get the second technical and get tossed anyway, and that all he was going to do was try the best he could to get under LeBron James' skin, which was only going to liberate LeBron even more and motivate him to have a bigger game 7. So the coach didn't even bother playing Lance Stevenson. You have, like I said, Bogdanovich, who did nothing. You have Sabonis, who's a young player, only 21 years of age. You didn't expect him to rise to the occasion. He had 1 or 2 or 1.5 good games, but nothing in the important game 7. Who stepped up in game 7? Collison, the veteran, and Oladipo, the guys who actually have experience. Collison finally had a really solid game. And that was all the help that Oladipo was going to get. The thing I love about Oladipo is after the game, not only did he congratulate LeBron and his presser after the game, he stated, I learned something. He goes, first of all, I really believe that our team deserves some respect for what we did and the effort we put out. He said, but I learned what it takes to get over the top. I saw what the greatest in the game was able to do, and it motivates me, and I learned from it. And that the very next day he was back to working out. There's a motivated guy who's trying to get better with this game. He's improving. And I respect somebody like that immensely. It's just a shame that he's always going to be surrounded in Indiana by a cast of ne'er-do-wells, just as LeBron is right now. When you're in mid-sized market hell, people aren't coming to Indianapolis, believe me, to save the day. You're not getting another Paul George. You're not getting another superstar to come to Indiana, for Christ's sake. You're going to be stuck with the Thaddeus Youngs for the rest of the time you're there. And that's why I feel badly for Victor Oladipo, because he deserves better than that. There's a guy who's proven that he could be part of a big 3 anywhere he went. I respect him. And Lance Stevenson after the game throwing accolades Cleveland's way and LeBron's way. Fuck him. He's goddamn bipolar son of a bitch. You can't believe a goddamn thing that comes out of his mouth. Fuck him. He's a dirty basketball player. He's 0 for 5 against LeBron in the playoffs. You know why. No class. No class whatsoever. And I think the same thing about Bogdanovich. He got no class. Sitting there taking cheap shots at LeBron and smirking about it, and he chokes in the goddamn important game. Fuck him in the ass. I got absolutely no sympathies for those players. It's the people who work their ass off and end up losing in that game 7. And Oladipo did everything he could. My God, one man cannot beat 2.5. which is basically what it came down to, which is kind of the sad part of it. So, yeah, a victory for the Cavaliers. Will take it, but now tomorrow it all starts over again, this time in Toronto. I can't imagine that LeBron James has anything left in a 33-year-old body after giving what he gave. You know he's going to try, but you have a feeling that this is, as Boys to Men would say, the end of the road.
No, well, I think it will probably be like a 4-2 Raptors win. So,
you know, the only thing you can hope for,
they'll lose the first two, win the next two. He'll run out of gas, and then they'll lose the next two.
Well, I can't help but think that the first game's going to be a blowout tomorrow because we're just tired. We're beat up. You know, that the best chance you have is game two if you're playing on the road. You know, Amsterdam's asked me, why isn't Lou playing Zizic to plug the middle? The problem is Zizic doesn't have the athleticism to make it up and down the floor. The second Zizic is in the game, you're compacting down in the paint, and any turnovers, anything that happens, what's going to happen is you're going to get outrun.
It would be the same thing as having Thompson and Love out on the court at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be instant transition, the way the game is evolved. I mean, and I love Ante Zizic. He's really worked hard. God bless him. I love the hard workers. And there's going to be time for him to play in Cleveland, but he's got no experience.
He was the throwaway.
Yeah, I don't know that he's ever going to really amount to a whole hell of a lot, but he's working his ass off. And when you have a guy who's 6'11", 7 foot, who's, you know, going to work his ass off, we've seen how it works when it works, and we've seen when it doesn't work. You know, Hassan Whiteside was called out by Pat Riley today for not being physically or mentally prepared for the playoffs. Whiteside was terrible in their loss and lost series. And basically now we discover that Hassan Whiteside has had problems with Eric Spoelstra as well. People were claiming that Pat Riley was a genius because he found Hassan Whiteside literally on a rice paddy in China playing basketball. And without realizing that there's a reason how you get from Marshall University to China when you're 7 foot tall and can play basketball probably has something to do with your character. Hassan Whiteside is a bum. He's like Roy Hibbert. Roy Hibbert worked his ass off to get to a certain point. When he got to that certain point, he stopped working and he became a fat bum. That's what happened to Hassan Whiteside. He got a $98 million contract, and he just became a fat, lazy bum. And he played great when he was motivated to get the contract. And once he got the contract, he's a low character guy. It's that simple. We've seen it when it works. We've seen it when it doesn't work. I hope Ante Zizic continues to work hard. I don't know that the game is suited for his skills right now. He's going to have to really expand his repertoire. He's going to have to develop a perimeter shot. There's a lot of things that he's going to have to do, believe me. But not now. We can't. This is not a time to play Ante Zizic, especially when you have guys who are supposed to be doing the job to get you into transition. The truth is, when we're seemingly on the floor with Larry Nance and we're not getting rebounds. Rodney Hood and Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson, that whole second unit is giving up second and third attempts after misses, getting initial stops but not getting rebounds. And Larry Nance is playing tight. We need him to do more. I don't know how it's going to work.
Again, they were -9 in the third quarter.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's an ongoing problem. The unit.
If they're -9 to Indiana in the third quarter, you can just extrapolate what that's going to be
Toronto,
a good team like Toronto.
Well, Toronto's got depth coming off their bench. They got people like Van Vliet, and they've got Siakam, and they've got
So it won't matter when LeBron scores 42 points if nobody else is doing any.
It can be neutralized rather easily because we're not getting anything.
You're just not going to have the production.
Clarkson averaged 12 points a game coming off the bench during the regular season. He ain't doing shit. Rodney Hood averaged 11 points a game coming off the bench. That's 23 points. I mean, people wonder why the Cavaliers in the first round of the playoffs were the number 16, the last rated offensive team scoring points wise. And you can point to those two players virtually alone and say that's 23 points right down the shitter. That's the difference between scoring that measly 88 points and scoring 111. I mean, this isn't advanced mathematics. Some guys are just not playing. They're just not doing their job. So, and there's going to be no room for error because they will get outscored and fall behind so quickly to Toronto because that unit is quick. They've got Jakob Poeltl and Siakam. Those two guys are long and quick. It's going to be a problem. And I think Ty Lue is going to have to really consider what he wants to do to try to hold them off the boards. I don't know how they're going to do it. We don't have, people who are physical down low. It's going to be a huge problem. I mean, I think it's an insurmountable task at this point. And you look at LeBron James, and I don't want to hear anybody complaining if he chooses to leave Cleveland because, look, he's dying. Look at him in that press conference. He's exhausted. And do you think that a guy who's...
Well, this time around, I really think he's earned his right to
he would be justified.
Do whatever is necessary.
Well, I mean, he's 33, Brian. I mean, here's a guy who...
He's won his championship for the city. He's done what he's set out to do as an 18-year-old kid. Thanks. Do what you need to do to stay at least competitive because you're not going to stay competitive on the Cavaliers. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. There's so much that I don't understand about the culture of professional basketball, and it's not easy to coach players. But LeBron James is smart enough. He has a basketball IQ, and he's had this magnificent season at 33 years of age, but there won't be very many of them left if he has to play the minutes that he's being forced to play, and he's being eaten alive, physically ravaged by the lack of assistance and help that he's getting. It's one thing that Oladipo is young and not getting assistance, but LeBron doesn't need this crap. He's got to go someplace where people can at least contribute. And I hate to say this, but, Rodney Hood's not going to be a Cavalier. Obviously he's a free agent. He can go wherever the hell he wants to go. And that's as far away from Cleveland. He can jump in a lake with Way. I don't really care what happens to him. But Clarkson's going to be around. Nance is going to be around. The history and my way of thinking is that players who establish themselves as playoff chokers remain playoff chokers. And I don't want to be too harsh on Jordan Clarkson because it's his first go around. He played with a really lousy Lakers team. I get that. Same with Larry Nance. I get that. But the fact is that Hood is a career loser in the playoffs. George Hill, 84 games, but he's never gone anywhere. These are people who, they don't come up large, and they're not going to turn a new leaf suddenly. Right? It's just not going to happen. And LeBron's got to see that. I mean, it's LeBron's comment. I did what I had to do is what the doctor ordered. It's like, by any means necessary, or what was the slogan they said? Whatever it takes. Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous? Yeah. Whatever to cripple your one star and chase them out of town, whatever it takes. Unreal. Hi, Bronk. How you doing?
Hey, you know what that game reminded me of yesterday?
What?
Go back to 2015, the finals against Golden State, when we didn't have Kyrie, we didn't have Kevin Love, and Matthew Dellavedova nearly died after playing hard for like about 20, 30 minutes. LeBron played double virtually yesterday than what Dellavedova did in that game, and Dellavedova ended up in the hospital. I'm glad that fucking LeBron is still alive after that game.
It was scary watching
Jesus
him.
Christ. I mean, they should get blown out by 40 points tomorrow night, but I don't think they will.
He should have honestly gone in and gotten an IV, and I hope he did after that. Even though he said he wanted to go.
He had to be feeling like absolute shit, headaches and the whole thing going on.
Well, he didn't accept the IV, I'm sure, because of the amount of time consumption that would have been necessary. That the
and
team
you can't trust the team enough to be able to get an IV. That's the thing.
Well, even if he trusted him, it would take too much time, and at that point he didn't have it. Instead, he was gulping down fluids as fast as he could. And I understand
that too, though.
But this is the way to blow up a player. This is not a way to make him want to stay in your town. That's for damn sure. And I'm tired of the players, and Kyle Korver made a great pass to get him back door, but Kyle Korver scored 3 points in the game. And, you can go on talking about, LeBron does this and he does that for us, but stand up and you got to do something for yourself and the team, because he ain't going to be there next year. I mean,
and all that George Hill did in the second half, like people praising George Hill, all he proved was that this team is dearly missing Kyrie Irving. That's all he proved, because we needed a guard that can distribute the ball and penetrate, which we had in Irving, and we don't fucking have that now. LeBron cannot play point guard for 48 minutes a game in the playoffs.
No, I mean, and the other thing that's interesting is if somebody would have said to me, after watching this series, Victor Oladipo would have been a great substitute for Kyrie Irving for the Cavaliers. You see, I mean, with the speed, the quicks, he's not as good a shooter from outside as Kyrie, not as clever a finisher, but really has a massive burst of speed.
He plays harder. He plays harder than Kyrie.
Yeah, he does. He
plays harder. More of a team player. He'd be better on the team than Kyrie was. And that's how LeBron stays. If LeBron's going to stay in Cleveland, he's going to end up recruiting a person to be a part of the big two again. There's got to be a free agent come in. Otherwise, he should leave. There's got to be a massively big free agent come into Cleveland this offseason for him to stay.
Well, I mean, I can't tell my story yet because the Cavaliers are still in this.
Fair enough. I mean,
The only my belief is that the Cavaliers are going to lose LeBron James' services, and you go through this whole thing, and boy, I mean. What are you going to, if you're LeBron James and you, out of sheer force of will and pride, you weren't going to lose a first round matchup to the goddamn Pacers, right? You weren't going to let that happen.
It's shameful.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
it's shameful. They're cheap shot artists half that. Bogdanovich is dirtier than Lance Stevenson.
They were saying in boxing, when two undefeated fighters, somebody's O's got to go. And, the goddamn Pacers were not going to take LeBron's O in first round series away from him. He made sure of that. I think he probably fell on his sword in the end because of what's going to happen in the second round. But he's going to look at the whole thing and say, how is this going to be any different than next year?
Yeah, it's only going to get worse. The
only good thing that you could say about the whole thing would be, well, the only thing the Cavaliers could do is maybe get lucky with the number 8 pick and then trade Kevin Love for more picks. And LeBron James isn't going to start all over again.
No.
See, any way you look at it, it just wouldn't make sense for him. But, what I really want to say more than anything is recognize who the real hero is here. Recognize, don't take it for granted. Don't try to give somebody credit because they played one game and showed up one night out of a season. No. You have an opportunity to respect this man and pay respect to him while he's with the team. And he gave basically his arms and his legs for the team.
He gave his life for that. I mean, people can pass out from from exhaustion. It has happened.
Yeah, and it looked dangerously close.
It looked dangerous to me.
Yeah, I don't like seeing people run down like that. Now, also,
NFL draft. Have we talked about that today?
no, but I want to ask Brian and you, and let you guys talk about this. What is it now all of a sudden that we're going to start drafting all these miscreants, people who have actually committed violent crimes and acts of thievery? I mean, what do you guys make?
I got a comment for that. Hugh Jackson said, "Trust me, we've done our due diligence." Well, there you go. Let's trust him about his quarterback picks. Kessler and Kaiser. Yeah, trust me. Well, the thing about Callaway is that if they really have done due diligence and they think he's like on the straight and narrow, he is first-round talent. He's better than Corey Coleman. So maybe it's worth wasting a pick on him.
Look,
it's a gamble.
It is a gamble, but Callaway is a player who has. Go ahead.
Last year they took the chance on Brantley, and that didn't really bite them in the ass. Other than he really wasn't overly productive and didn't get on the field much, but as far as off the field stuff, that didn't bite them in the ass. So and John Dorsey is much more of a proctologist than Sashi Brown and his crew was. So
agree with that.
If he says, "Look, I've investigated this. I've gone through everything. I don't have any real concerns about his off the field issues." I mean, I'm not going to say take it to the bank, but it's a lot more solid than it would have been under Sashi Brown.
Well, I mean, I guess the way I look at it is I get the Callaway thing. I mean, you need a wide receiver because obviously the organization is about as high on Corey Coleman as I am. And
I think he sucks too.
And if you can in the fourth round grab a first round talent, okay, that is troubled, it's a gamble worth taking because that speed, they're looking for team speed, and you're trying to help out quarterbacks, and you're trying to develop the ability to make big plays. And you're going to have Carlos Hyde probably as a short yardage running back. You're going to work Nick Chubb into this thing and Duke Johnson. So you're going to have running back by committee.
Back and Biner.
Yeah, I like Chubb. I think he'll be really good.
Well, I mean,
Chubb a lot.
Yeah, you're going to have one guy who, the one sledgehammer, another guy. Well, they're both kind of sledgehammers, and Duke Johnson, who's kind of out of the backfield, the Jim Kick guy, compared to the, the Larry Zonka guy.
Well, and that's why I compare him to the way Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner were in '86 and '87.
Right.
You're going to have, if one guy is really on, he's going to have a really good goddamn game. So, you could end up with a total of 1,800, 1,900, 2,000 yards in rushing offense, even though you have two or three guys in the mix. Plus, you still have your third down guy and your little wing nut that you can have for your spread formation. 4-wide formation to make your offense a little bit better in Duke Johnson. So they haven't really lost anything.
Well, the thing about Callaway, he's also a great kickoff and punt returner. How many times last year did we start the game, on the 10-yard line, and we never got the ball past the 10-yard line? We need somebody who can return kicks, and he can do that.
Well, I'm looking at this, and there are guys here. Callaway's the first one. Simeon Thomas.
Yeah, he's another one. 25 years old.
And the thing I guess I don't I understand the Callaway thing, but this whole bottom, the last rounds of what we did, it seems like we were going out of our way to find people, which might make me feel better in the Steelers game. But I don't know. I'm,
Yeah, it's going to be like the inmates versus the guards,
He led the California Penitentiary League in tackles last year. And
exactly.
And penalty yards.
Just need Burt Reynolds on the team.
Yeah, I'm just kind of lost. I mean, you go from one extreme to another.
We've won one game in 2 years. Let's go for it.
My feeling is that when you get hired, like John Dorsey was hired, and you have a shit roster, and let's be honest about it. I mean, we're talking about
They got rid of everybody. It's now a Dorsey roster. There's like 30 guys gone.
He inherited a shit roster, and so he's got a draft to try to get the ship cruising in the right direction, at least. You know,
smelling downwind instead of upwind.
That's exactly right. And so it's like we need athletes, and I don't care if they have guns, knives, if they rob people, if they hit women. I don't really care.
Cowboy's done all of that. He's got the wind treble on that one. He's done a lot.
Who?
Cowboy's done everything.
Yeah. He's the credit card guy. Although, I can see Jimmy Haslam going, woo! You know something? That's something I never even thought of. Woo!
He can work in my front office. Bing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it fits right into the culture.
Dorsey, you got to get an impression down to him. He's like the creepy junior high school gym teacher. You know, like, buddy, do you want to be the first round of the draft?
Yeah, because with Banner being gone, and I've invoked him. I'm sorry. Hold on. Hi, everybody.
It's Joe Banner.
How do you like me now?
Not much, Joe.
Is that you, Brian? I smell something. I don't know what that is. Oh, my.
There you go.
I sound like George Takei. Oh, my. I'm gonna have to
work on your Dorsey.
Dorsey's look. Yeah, I'll have to nail him. But I think that the roster is just so bad that they said, we're not going to get the kind of help that we need at the bottom of the draft unless we just turn to my comment on Twitter was, is this another remake of The Longest Yard? I just, it's like, wow, this is like an about face. Be that as it may, it's Well,
and he's going to pick up at least 5 of the 53-man team off of everybody else's cut list. So
easily.
Yeah, I mean, any way he can upgrade, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot for the roster we have.
What do you think of that buddy act between Dorsey and Hugh at these press conferences, like they're best pals? Do you think that's sincere?
No, I think that I think at this point, Hui is just in this.
Hui knows on which side of the bread, which side of the toast is getting buttered here. I
hope so.
He's going to really, he's going to play Mr. Suck Up because he knows he's not John Dorsey's guy. So,
yeah, what can he do? And at this point, there is he needs players, and I think Hui was even smart enough to know he didn't have any players last year.
Yeah,
and
he even said as much.
He did.
And I hate to say this to kind of bring Stephen A. Smith back into the conversation, but I would have loved to have heard what Hui and Sashi said to one another behind closed doors. And I wonder if either of them dropped an N-bomb. I'm just curious. These two men obviously did not see eye to eye, and I think Hui's just in this for as long as he can be in it. And you know, and I think anybody can look at the moves that were made, and they're sensible moves. You know, it's like I was trying to explain to Mrs. Moohead. It's like, it's one thing if you draft all the right positions, but you get the wrong guys.
Yeah.
It's totally different when you draft positions that you don't need. You know, and that's the kind of thing that we've seen in years past.
Oh yeah.
The Cleveland Browns, they needed quarterback, they needed receivers, they needed defensive backs, and you know, everything that they needed, they drafted. I mean, which is great. We'll see if they're drafted the right guys, but at least there was a plan and an overall sense, a sensibility to this. We'll see.
Well, they've got an offensive lineman that can play all 5 spots. They've got a great cover corner that will be able to keep up with Antonio Brown, so you don't have to watch him catch a 10-yard pass and run 70 yards for a touchdown every fucking...
Yeah, so, you're tired of that, huh, Brian?
Well, you know, one of the things that I really
they should be allowed to... I know you're Mr. Anti-Gun, but they really should allow us to. They need to have Henry Rifle Day at the stadium so that we can shoot out Antonio Brown's knees.
I really want to say something, because I'm really. It's not that I'm anti-gun. That wouldn't be an accurate representation. What I am is not head over heels into a gun culture that has allowed crazy motherfuckers to get their hands on them as easy as they can get Flintstone vitamins. That's really, I mean, it isn't. First of all, you're never going to get rid of the weapons in America. There's too many of them out there, and there's too many manufacturers, and they're being sold in too many places. But all I ask is, what can we do to make these things and let the public be assured that the proper people have access to these things, and not these crazy motherfuckers that are being visited by law enforcement 30 fucking times. You know, we're in a radical culture right now. And I think I'm anti-NRA. I'm not anti-gun. I think the NRA is bad news. All right. But I will say the same thing about PETA. All right. I mean, things that start out being logical in our society end up becoming illogical, you know, so that the PETA people for the ethical treatment of animals, suddenly I'm a bad guy for keeping my dog on a leash because he's got a free spirit and he should be allowed to run, get hit by a fucking car and die. Now, how in the hell did PETA morph into an organization that wanted dogs to become feral? When in the fuck did that happen? You see, and that's what my feeling is in the NRA. It's like, it isn't just a matter of making sure that guns are legal. It's a matter of going to every fucking city that has a tragedy and having a gun show right afterwards. They're a bunch of crazy motherfuckers. And I don't need crazy motherfuckers from either side. Well, guns are guns.
We could do a whole show about this, couldn't we?
Wow, a lot of my friends own guns. They're responsible shooters, and and I live in an area here in Carolina. It's deep red, and people have guns and they shoot at targets, and it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Guys go hunting; they're responsible. I don't have a problem with it. You know, as long as they're responsible, it's no different than somebody with a driver's license. I don't want some guy who's drunk driving and ever being able to drive again. I'm
going to trigger Bronk real quick. Ban Canadians with vans.
Huh. Yeah, you're fine, guy.
I knew he was going to get that in there. But the one I like...
You know what he did? He ran over women because he hates women.
Yeah, he purposely targeted at least 3 of them.
He purposely ran over women. I have friends in Canada. Yeah, he ran over women.
Well, it was really, it was terrible. Amsterdam is making reference to this, and I have to admit, when they, the NFL uses, marketing, right? This whole thing is a marketing thing. And they brought out that the child in the wheelchair,
Yeah.
And the first thing I said too was, God, I thought Mini-Me was dead.
He is. Everybody's dead.
Yeah, but it's like, why am I making a joke about a kid in a wheelchair? That makes me really pathetic and lame.
Well, the whole third day was all Shaquille Griffin, you know.
Yeah. The handless guy.
The whole third day was all about that.
Yeah, that
but
guy.
Did you see the interview that Pat Shermer did?
Oh God,
that was horrific. They are thinking the Giants are going to have a great draft and they're going to be improved. And then I saw Pat Shermer as their head coach being interviewed, and I thought, they're dead. They're going to have the worst record in the NFC.
I'm doing my Pat Shermer.
Yeah, Pat Shermer head.
Could you repeat the question, please? No, I'm sorry. I wasn't at the draft. I was in the produce section. Guy's a human vegetable, I swear to God. Wait till the Giants.
Why would they be insane enough to hire him? You know, some team in New York. They're gonna really.
He's in the fraternity now.
Yeah. Once you
get into that carousel, you can get a goddamn job anywhere in
That's why
the
people
league.
take the Cleveland Browns head coaching job.
They figure. Would you rather hire Chud or even like Butch Davis than Shermer? I mean, come on.
Well,
I know they're both horrible.
But he's the latest one.
But all you have to do is become an offensive coordinator of a team that makes a deep playoff run or the Super Bowl.
He was lucky with that shit.
Right place, right time, and you get a gig. I mean, it's been happening for years. Bruce Arians was a great example of that. You know, guys who, were offensive coordinators who just,
and that's where I got to take issue with Colin Cowturd again. Because he was talking today about
hold
receivers don't win games.
Wait. Stephen Rose just said, Mr. Moohead, sorry for my absence. I will be on the show Friday, 100%. All right, Stephen. We were getting a little bit worried about you and your father, or you or your father. We were getting concerned about you.
Are you your own father?
Yeah.
That would make him Darth Vader, wouldn't it?
No, yeah. Do you know what do you remember the Mel Brooks movie Spaceballs?
I'm my own best friend.
That's the best line in the movie. Barf the Mog. John Candy. He's half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend. Oh God, I'm glad somebody else thought that was funny.
I miss that guy.
Steven said, I just got back from Planet Mars with my father. All right.
Wow. I hope it was a safe trip.
At least I wasn't Planet Hollywood.
Well, there you go. You get food poisoning there. Don't eat the romaine lettuce.
You get the Harvey Weinstein special.
Yeah.
At any rate, the draft pick that I liked, I like Austin Corbett because there's a guy who's a hard worker.
He's a lunch pail Cleveland guy. Come on.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's like Jim Thome and Joe Thomas.
He's raised his stock considerably, and he got up to the first pick in the second round through hard work. Guy you're going to cheer for. And we'll see if he can get the job done. But
best friends with Joe Patone.
That's right.
Like I said, he can play all 5 offensive line positions. So now you don't have to worry about Sean Coleman if he sucks at left tackle. You don't have to play Sean Coleman or Spencer Drango unblocked, as you like to call him, or any of these other ding dongs. You actually have some help over there. And I think Hubbard will actually be the starting right tackle at the beginning.
I believe that. I think Sean Coleman is going to end up sitting, and hopefully we never have to see him.
Well, that's another high draft pick that's going down the toilet from the previous admin.
He was just awful, just overmatched. One more thing before we get out of here, and that's this Josh Tomlin thing.
Is he still on the team?
He's on the team, but here and again, Tito was saying, you don't basically you don't throw up the baby with the bathwater, But and looking past Tito on this, really there is a culprit in all this, and the culprit is the organization for not having developed a 5th starter. I mean, Ryan Merritt, even if he's not injured, is not a number 5 starter in the major leagues. And Danny Salazar is likely to never pitch again because there's no forthcoming information about what is even wrong with his arm, and he's not even throwing. So that is like a closed book in my mind. But, you know, we've got Justin's brother, Shane Bieber, who is not looked upon as a great major league prospect, and he's in Double-A. He would have to make the jump from Double-A. It's not like we have a Mike Clevenger waiting in the wings. We don't have that. And the organization has had several years of Carrasco and Kluber, and they had time to find a 5th starter in the offseason.
Could have traded Kipnis last year, guy's developmental pitcher, and a Double-A guy.
Or even a reliable 5th starter we could have gotten. But it didn't happen. It's the front office who's really accountable for this because you have nothing else to go to except to throw out Tomlin out there, who gets into these slumps. And one of these times, he's not going to come out of the slump. He's given up 10 home runs already this year, for God's sakes. It's really become home run derby. But it's the organization, in my mind, that is the responsible one for doing this. And they don't have a backup plan B because they just don't have anybody in the organization. So before you go off on Tito, which you can do if you want, it's not like he has a choice in this. I don't see that he has a choice.
Well, then it's the ownership and the front office that need to have a plan and actually have some minor league talent. They should have talent in AAA that's either ready to come up or that's usable for our draft stock so that they can go or trade stock that they can go out and actually acquire somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now they don't have tradable assets, you know. And one more thing I'm concerned about is Encarnacion.
Oh, he'll get better. Yeah, April.
You know something.
Last year,
I have a feeling that something's not right because the one thing about Encarnacion is that he's a patient hitter and he will take his walks. He's swinging at balls that are a foot off the plate. They're not even close. He's guessing. When I see a hitter guessing, it means he's lost some of his twitch and some of his reflex. And they're throwing fastballs by him. I really have a sick feeling about him that when guys age, they can age overnight. And I am definitely concerned about that too. But all for another day because we got to get out of here.
All righty.
All right, guys. I appreciate, as always, you guys taking the time to jump in here. And we'll be back on Friday. We'll be knowing more about the Toronto series. And
Cavs will win the second game.
We'll be
the first game.
Yeah, we'll be loaded for bear. Tomorrow's game is a 6 o'clock start. And then
if they win tomorrow night, I don't see how that's going to happen.
No, I don't believe that there's a likelihood that it would happen at all. But, you know, hey, you stand with your team. If you're a fan,
they're hard to predict, aren't they?
Until the end, you stick with them. Guys, thanks a lot for jumping in.
No problem.
And that's it for this edition of Moohead Radio. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in on Friday with the Friday edition. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.